Over the last few weeks, I've uploaded various Football Manager 2020 experiments that have involved newly created players. And there's plenty of you that have asked me, how do I do it? How do I create a new player on FM20? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how. So Mr. Perfect, the star of quite a few of my recent experiments, is an example of the player you could create. You might want to create the world's greatest footballer ever. You might want to create a nice realistic footballer. You might want to create yourself and some friends. There's a multitude of different things you could do. But let's go through this step by step and create a new player on FM20. First of all then, I'm going to show you how to install the editor, the pre-game editor, which is free by the way. The in-game editor you do have to buy, but you don't need that to create a player, although it might come in handy later on, so I will show you how to install that later. So you need to open up Steam. You should know where that is because you need it to play Football Manager these days. You then go to Library, so click on Library and it will come up with this screen. Now the key thing here is to make sure on this drop down Tools is selected. The format of the Steam Workshop, the layout has changed in recent weeks. It's a little bit more confusing I think, but I'm sure we'll get used to it eventually. So make sure Tools is selected. Football Manager comes with a couple different tools, and as I've got every single Football Manager installed since FM11, there's loads of different things here. But the key one here is Football Manager 2020 Editor, of course, which I already have installed. To install it, you just need to right-click it, and there's an install button. Just show you on an old version, FM15 Editor, as you can see. Right-click, press Install. Once it's installed, it'll be in white writing. I then tend to add it to my favourites, so it's at the top, so you can't lose it, especially all these games I've never really played, to be honest. Click on the FM20 editor here, and then just press Launch. So once it's opened, you'll have a screen like this, a very purple looking screen. So to create a player, you need to head to People. Click on People here, and then you press Add, which is a drop down, and you press Player. Obviously you can create other humans on the game as well, staff members, referees, retired people, journalists, etc. You can create all sorts of humans on FM20. Press Player though, because we're creating a player, and then quite simply you go through all of these things and input data. So let's create a player, Trevor Nigel. Obviously you can fill all of this stuff in. You can do whatever you want, you know, all different sorts of hair colour, skin colour, hair length, etc. Obviously you need to input a date of birth. Let's go for 2000. And then a nationality. So if you search for a city that you want him to be born in, Clacton on C, and then obviously it will fill in the nation for you. But you can change these things around if you want. You might want to declare him for the nation, so he's already decided he's going to play for England, but you can input second nationalities down here as well if you so wish. Malaysia, for example. And then you can input various other things. So you might want him to already be capped. You might want to say he's already been capped 5 times by England, or under 21 caps, for example. So let's go for that. You can input the debut date if you so wish. There's so much stuff you can do here. Now, if you don't want him to play for a club to start with, then leave this club contract thing blank. So as you can see, I'm going down. We're up to club contract. So yeah, I'm gonna select a team for him, and to search for the team, you press Add Condition, Name, or you can search for it by other metrics as well. Let's go for Southend United, and then you can decide his contract. If you leave it blank, it will sort of give the player an automatic contract when you start up the game. You can even decide future transfers if you so wish. There's so much you can do with this. Just fiddle around, experiment, see what happens. You're not going to get it right first time, probably. It is about experimenting and deciding what you want. These are the sort of hidden attributes. So if you want a perfect personality, you kind of need 20 on most things apart from controversy. So if we do this, he's going to be a model citizen essentially, but you might want to have, it's out of 20 for this sort of thing. If you just put in a really high number, it will automatically put the highest for you, because sometimes the highest thing that goes in here is 200 in certain instances. You've then got the future job preferences. So when he retires, he wants to become a manager, for example. You might not want him to become anything, and you can put 1 in all of those things, and I think he just retires automatically. I think here you can decide a future retirement date even. Languages spoken, you can add tons in there, of course. Days at club, career plans. I've not really fiddled around with these things before, but there's obviously a lot that you can do. Now, I suppose the most fun thing is the player data and deciding how good he is. Now, current ability and potential ability is scored out of 200. So the highest, if you put 200 to both, he's going to be the best player in the world from the start. But you might want something sensible. So if he's a young player, start him at 50. And if he goes up to 150, he's going to be a really good player. 150 is Premier League standard easily. Premier League standard player. Like Messi and Ronaldo have like 196 or something. But everyone else below that is probably maximum of 180, 170. Current reputation is actually scored, I think, out of 10,000. Let's just see. No, 200. Sorry. I'm wrong about that. I thought it was slightly higher, but maybe not. Let's just see. Yeah, it's 200. I could have sworn that was higher, but nope, I'm wrong. So that's scored out of 200 as well. You've got the height, which I think is in centimetres. It's 180 centimetres. Weights in kilograms. You can probably change this actually using the settings. Yeah, you can change currency. I'm not sure about distances. You can change meters, yards. I'm not sure about this actually. Maybe you can't change this. Left foot, right foot scored out of 20. So if you want him to be ambidextrous, then do that. So we're creating a fairly good player here. And then positions, you can fill this in, just depending on what position you want him. So that's scored out of 20 as well. If you're uncertain as to what something's scored out of, just put a high number in and see what the maximum is, and then adjust it accordingly afterwards. That would be my tip, really, because it's quite hard to work out sometimes what things are scored out of. Then you've got the actual attributes that you see in the game, so that's obviously scored out of 20. If you leave things blank at 0, then it will automatically give something. It will randomize each time you start a new save, because a lot of real players on the editor, if you look for them, they've got 0 for certain things, because they'll just be randomized at the start of the save, especially youth players where they're not really sure on their attributes. So I'm just going to leave everything blank for now, and it will probably select attributes based on the position that I've chosen, which is a winger, of course, or an attacking midfielder. Preferred moves, you can just tick these depending on what you want him to be like, what sort of player you want him to be. Tries killer balls often, for example. There are some hidden attributes which you can't see on the game, such as versatility, injury proneness. Now you want to set that low if you don't want him to be injured. And also important matches, that's a nice one to have. And consistency as well, so you could set that at 20 and it'll be very good in important matches and a very consistent performer as well. So that's all sort of the player data side of things. You've then got relationships. You could add a favourite person in the game, like Lionel Messi, for example, or favourite club, so you might end up wanting to move somewhere in particular, or teams he really hates as well. So that's pretty much everything. So we've created Trevor Nigel from Clacton-on-Sea playing for Southend United. You then need to save it. So we'll save it as Trevor Nigel and press save. You can also publish to the Steam Workshop if you want to share it with anyone, but we'll just press save normally for now. And Trevor Nigel is a player. But now you need to open up the correct database when you start a new save. So I'm going to show you how to do that. But before I do that, I'm just going to quickly show you how to install the in-game editor. So open up Football Manager 2020. There's a button called Downloads. Click on that. It will come up with this screen, in-game editor. If you haven't bought it already, there'll be a button to select so you can purchase the in-game editor. I think it's £3.99. Obviously, it might be a different price in different countries. And then you will have the in-game editor in your game. Just to make sure it does appear, by the way, make sure this is ticked. Show in-game editor in the menu bar. So go to preferences and make sure this is ticked and then press confirm. So then, to make sure Trevor Nigel, or your newly created player, is in your save when you start it up, you need to make sure you've selected the right thing. So start a career game, database here, click this and make sure the correct database is ticked. So obviously we called it Trevor Nigel. Make sure that is selected, press confirm, and then you just need to go through the usual route of setting up a new game. So we'll just have the English League, large database. I'm going to untick this because I have ticked this previously. Make sure that is unticked if you want to be able to use the in-game editor. I'm also going to tick this to make sure we can see the attributes of the players as well. And we'll start a game. So here we go, the start of a new game. And if we search for Trevor Nigel, up he pops, and we'll click on him, and here he is. welcome to the world, Trevor Nigel. He's worth a huge amount of money on a ridiculous contract, even though I left it blank. I thought it would give him a sensible contract according to the team he's playing for, but for whatever reason that hasn't happened. So you might, if you are creating a player, you might want to make sure you've filled in the contract details so it's sensible for the sort of team that he's playing for. Here's all his attributes. Remember, I left them blank, so they have been randomised based on his position. Now, I accidentally made him a centre-back as well as an attacking midfielder and a right winger, so I think he's a little bit confused as a player, to be honest. You might have meticulously filled all of these data points in on the editor. You might have gone through, given 17 for determination, 16 for teamwork, etc. And when you open up a new save, it doesn't correspond with what you've input to the editor. That might be because you've created him as a player with a current ability of like 50 and he's got potential ability of 150. So he's got the potential to reach those attributes you've put in. Certain ones will be kind of cemented in place. I think determination, for example, will be what you've set it. But they might differ a little bit. One way around that, I suppose, if you really are desperate for the player to have the attributes that you really want him to have, install the in-game editor. If you press this little thing here, which is the in-game editor tool, click on Start Editing, and you can input the attributes yourself. And if you really want him to be like that for the entirety of his career, you can freeze those attributes so they won't move around. They won't increase through potential. They won't decrease because of anything like terrible training or whatever. You know, they do move up and down obviously naturally, but if you click this, then they are frozen. There's other things you can do with the in-game editor. You can change the hidden attributes, you can change the current and potential ability, you can change what positions he's good at, his player traits, etc. Obviously, this is cheating. If you're playing with a friend and you're doing this sneakily behind your friend's back, then that's not really on if you're using the in-game editor. But if you're just playing by yourself and it's just for fun, or maybe you're doing an experiment, then you know it's your game. You play the game how you want to play it. Basically, that's what I say. We can edit his name and his international details as well by clicking on that one. You've got the contract details. You can change his contract. You know, he really shouldn't be earning that much at Southend, so let's change that to 2,355 to be a bit more sensible. You could move him to another club or another club on loans. We could move him to Scunthorpe, for example. And if we click on Scunthorpe, and then you can set the transfer fee, etc. We'll leave it at 0, and suddenly he's at Scunthorpe United, and it's adjusted his contract accordingly based on the team, I think. You can also add another nationality. I've spoken about freezing the attributes, and you can also terminate the contract so he just leaves the club completely and he's a free agent. So there's various things you can do there. Another handy thing is you could export the attribute template. So you might want to save this player's template, and then on a new player, you could import the attribute template, and for example, we can now change Trevor Nigel into being a perfect player, as you can see here, because I've saved that attribute template before. So that's another nice trick that you can use. So I think I've shown you everything you need to know. If you do have any questions, then stick them in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm not an expert on the editor. I know what to do with what I need to do, basically. I know how to create players, I know how to move teams around, I know how to create teams, but I don't know really in-depth stuff, but I can always do my best to answer. If there are any other editor tutorials that you'd like me to make, maybe there's a specific thing you'd like me to do, maybe it's quite simply how to create a team, I could do that as an editor tutorial as well, then let me know. If this was useful, please leave a like. If you're new to the channel, then maybe hit that subscribe button as well, that'd be much appreciated. But until next time, enjoy FM20, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you very soon.